on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
And a good Tuesday morning to everyone. It is 7 minutes after 5 o'clock on O'Connor and Company here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news. Mike Opelka in for Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Day 2 of this adventure. And Julie, I'm very happy and actually a touch surprised that you showed up knowing I was going to be here again. So I appreciate it.
We had a great time yesterday.
We did. Some people said, you guys were having too much fun. I said, no, not possible. Not possible. We learned from Arthur, fun is the best thing to have. And it is. We have a truckload of topics to get to today and some fascinating guests that are going to help us understand it all, help us make sense of the news, if you will. KT McFarland is joining us just after 7 o'clock, so an hour from now. KT McFarland will talk to us about what the heck is happening over in Europe with our president over there. And just a little bit from now, we're going to talk to Denise Rucker-Krepp, a D.C. resident, about the situation here about police accountability, the bill that's going to be voted on in D.C. today. It's a preview of Mayor Bowser's crime bill. So we'll get into that, and then a little bit later in the show, Greg Pemberton of the D.C. Police Union, chairman, he'll join us to talk about the bill as well. And at 8 o'clock, Senator Roger Marshall, a doctor, is going to talk about something we mentioned briefly yesterday when we were looking at all the PC stuff when it comes to the topic of chest feeding.
Oh, boy.
I know there's a crazy video from the libs of TikTok that we just might have to play the whole thing because it's frighteningly stupid. Is that wrong? My mother used to just cringe and get really upset whenever we said the word stupid. We weren't allowed to use it. You could say someone's not smart, but you can't call them stupid. But I have to say, I think it's okay to call some of these folks in that community stupid.
Yes. I'm with you on that.
Good, thank you. Yesterday, early in the show, we talked about Beach Biden and how we were treated, and as Chris Plant likes to say, using air quotes with my fingers, treated to the visual of Joe Biden on the beach shirtless, and we made the comparison to Robert Kennedy Jr. shirtless. And he was doing the push-ups and all the weightlifting and stuff. And then yesterday came a bubbling story about how the 69-year-old wannabe president was taking testosterone treatments and taking injections to make himself all buff and everything. And the photos from 12 years ago and recent photos, it is remarkable. He went from, 59, 57-year-old Robert Kennedy to 69-year-old Robert Kennedy, and he is buffed now. I don't think there's any other way to describe it, but a lot of folks on the internets were very upset, saying, well, he's so against vaccines. And we were discussing it here. I think he has free will. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Robert
but it
Kennedy
is. I'm
gets
look.
that.
I'm a huge RFK critic. I'm a big supporter of the normal vaccines for kids. I'm certainly no COVID mandate proponent, but it does tell you a lot about a guy who, for vanity, will inject himself with something, but rails against injecting life-saving vaccines. And I mean, he is an absolute lunatic. He believes, everything from cell phones to your microwave cause cancer. And some of his radical positions have cost millions of lives in Africa where they have rejected modern vaccines and modern medicine. So I love any crap that RFK gets on Twitter and elsewhere. I'm just not a big fan of the guy.
Wow. He might be right on some things. That's what I think is interesting. He's crazy on many, 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 many things. He's still going to be a Democrat.
Sure.
They're not going to change him. And He is married to one of the more progressive, farther leftists in Hollywood with Cheryl Hines. So the whispers yesterday
honestly,
about...
I still can't believe he's married to Cheryl Hines. I thought she was married to Larry David. I really did.
Well, that's in TV land, Julie. When we go into TV land time, that's what happens. Yeah, she was very believable as Larry David's wife on Curb Your Enthusiasm. But the reality here is the rumors yesterday, and there were many people saying, well, what about Donald Trump and Robert Kennedy as a ticket? No, that's not happening. I remember when people talked about Nixon Muskie. When I was a kid getting on the school bus, people were talking about, well, what about Nixon Muskie? And I couldn't understand it because I didn't have any brains at the time. I was a child in school. But now I get it. Donald Trump and Robert Kennedy, yeah, they're both disruptors. That's where it stops. It goes no further than that. But the interesting take on this is how the left is trying to squash him from being a candidate. Yeah. I would not want a President Kennedy unless it were President John Kennedy of Louisiana. But President Robert Kennedy Jr. would be a bad thing for conservatism and the Constitution. But he should be allowed, in my opinion, to debate the current president and Marianne Williamson. And let's just think of what a show that would be.
Well, Mike, the other thing is it's not just a disruptor, and that this is part of being disruptive. It's the fact that he is willing to talk about things. He is willing to debate. And when people, refuse, like these public health officials who say, oh, well, I won't debate him, that only strengthens RFK. It only makes him look like a hero because he is willing to talk about things.
Yeah, he's not afraid to discuss. That's the wonderful thing about people who are so confident in their opinions, even if they're wrong. They're willing to talk about it. And the best thing you can do is just let them talk. Yeah. Just allow them to say those things because they expose themselves. 100 years ago, I worked at theblaze.com, Glenn Beck's media company, when it was really out there doing a lot of journalism. It's a different place now. And the rule was, if you get somebody from the left who's willing to talk to you on camera, don't interrupt them. Just even if you get 45 minutes of video, you're going to get 2 minutes of gold. And that's the same thing with Kennedy. If you let him keep talking, and if you let Marianne Williamson keep talking, and in some ways, if you let Joe Biden keep talking, you're going to get something because they're going to stumble into it. In Biden's case, it's more often than not. But it is fascinating to me that the left is all in for getting rid of Robert Kennedy. At the same time, and we'll get into this a little bit later, they appear to be all in to getting rid of Joe Biden. It seems like the effort is coordinated now, except for, and we have to play the clips later, the ladies on The View. And again, air quotes around the word ladies. The ladies on The View haven't gotten the memo yet that Joe Biden needs to step down. Maureen Dowd got it, and Axios got it, and I'm trying to think, there were a couple others who got it. There was that article at The Atlantic that said Joe Biden needs to step down now, but the ladies on The View have not.
No.
So we will get to that. And there are some absolute bits of gold from those harpies. Is Barbara Walters spinning now in her grave?
Everyone always says that, like Barbara Walters was some great, goddess of reason and civility. She started this, and she, I think there was plenty of times during Babs's years on The View where it got out of control. She's no hero here.
Well, one day I'll tell you the Barbara Walters story when she instructed Bill Richardson on what he needed to do to win the nomination.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, it's a fun story. But it is time. It is absolutely time for us. We'll continue with that discussion in a minute. It's 15 minutes after 5. WMAL traffic and weather every...
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
On the next Vince Callahan Show, Joe Biden's Justice Department just announced charges against the missing Biden corruption witness, Join us for details at 3 o'clock here on WMAL.
It is 17 minutes after the hour. This is, of course, O'Connor and Company. Mike Opelka sitting in for Larry, and Julie Gunlock tolerating me all that she can. We appreciate you being here. Yeah, I mentioned this earlier, Julie. Citizen Free Press noted that it's official now. The mainstream media has finally recognized Biden's got 7 grandkids, not 6 that he keeps referencing. And this could be a turning point. Again, it seems to be maybe playing into the belief that the Democrats and their cohorts in the mainstream media are finally saying, well, it's time for Joe. He's done his bit. And in fact, this morning, the RNC Research Twitter account posted a tweet from Joe Biden in October of 2020, which supports what the left is doing now. It's Joe Biden put this up just before the election. The entire tweet reads, "I've had a rule my entire life. No matter what's happening, no matter how important the meeting, I'll always take a call from my grandchildren."
Yeah. You know, I think Maureen Dowd had her column this week, yesterday or it was Sunday, on the fact that he's not recognizing his grandson. And she was harsh. She said what a lot of us feel, that it's really monstrous, that it's breathtaking cruelty to not recognize this young girl who, she was not asked to be born. She's innocent in this. But I think it's a signal to Americans. I think that this says, if a family, and let's not forget, this includes Jill, okay, the grandmother, Dr. Jill, that if you are willing to treat a child this way, that you are capable of anything, including, influence peddling, which, sort of pales in comparison morally to what they've done to this little girl. Yeah. So I do think that this is a moment where the media is not going to stand for this anymore.
It seems that way. And as I mentioned yesterday, the ladies on The View didn't get that memo, though. Here's a wonderful moment from yesterday's Harpy session on ABC.
Apparently, the reason that's happening is because the right wing, who again is weaponizing everything related to Hunter, keeps asking, so how many children do you have, Mr.
No, it's
grandchildren do you have? How many?
It's been speeches he delivered.
Maybe Maureen Dowd should find something else to write about.
Yeah, write about something else.
I'm sorry. These things are, for me, when you start talking about people's families and what they're doing, I find it unnecessary. This is not anybody's business. Nobody needed to know about this. No. This is private. And please. I know people feel like you need to know everything. I'm sorry, you don't. You need to know not almost anything about people.
Yeah, they had the same level of respect for the Trump family, for the Bush family. I mean, give me a break.
Well, I have a confession to make.
Sure.
I spent a year and 3 months working with Whoopi Goldberg every morning on an ill-fated radio show.
Oh, dear.
And she used to answer every question. She didn't care. Now, suddenly, she's hired some Swedish advisor named Hans Zoff that is not allowing anyone to ask questions of the Biden family. It really is a double standard. And it's obvious to everybody. We have much more on this, and there might even be a little more fun from The View, because who doesn't like fun from The View? It's 9:21 on WMAL. It is O'Connor and Company with Mike Opelka sitting in for Larry and Julie Gunlock with me. We were just talking about the Biden's grandchild, and we played that clip from The View and the Ana Navarro clip. I have one more Ana Navarro clip that I have to play for you. Yesterday, well, it's everybody. And The View really does want all of us to stop talking about Hunter's child.
The reason that's happening is because the right wing, who again is weaponizing everything related to Hunter, keeps asking, so how many children do you have, Mr.
No, it's
grandchildren do you have? How many?
It's been speeches he delivered.
Maybe Maureen Dowd should find something else to write about.
Yeah, write about something else.
I'm sorry. These things are, for me, when you start talking about people's families and what they're doing, I find it unnecessary. This is not anybody's business. Nobody needed to know about this.
No.
This is private. And I know people feel like you need to know everything. I'm sorry, you don't. You need to know not almost anything about people.
But I do feel like if it was Trump, we would talk about it, is the thing. If Trump had a grand...
Yes, we would talk about it.
The reason that's happening is because the right
I
wing...
can't stop Anna. She just keeps interrupting me.
It's the right.
It is the right. And
The
we're
right.
weaponizing.
Yes.
Anyone who dares
Pouncing.
to ask a question is... Yeah, did we pounce?
We pounced.
Well, does that mean Maureen Dowd pounced?
It does.
Does that mean Axios pounced?
It means Maureen Dowd is obviously a white supremacist. There you go.
I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. I must do better. I'm going to take time off with my family, and I'm going to work to educate myself, and I'm going to do better. These are the list of excuses that not just the left. There are people on the right who've said the same thing. I want people just to own up to it. Make the mistake, rip off the Band-Aid, and get on with it.
Would be nice.
It would be nice. A boy can dream, can't he? Yes, he can. It is 5:29. We have so much more to get to today. It's Michael Pelka in for Larry O'Connor. Julie Gunlock with me on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington. A Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 5:37 in the morning on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, trying to make sense of the news, because we do make sense of the news here. Good morning. It's Michael Pelka in for Larry O'Connor, Julie Gunlock alongside. Guests coming up, Denise Rucker-Krepp is joining us about the D.C. Mayor's crime bill in about an hour. KT McFarland will be here at 7, just at the top of the hour. D.C. Police Union Chairman will join us to talk about the crime bill as well. And Senator Roger Marshall will be talking about the CDC's push for trans chest feeding, which is confusing to everybody who is a logical thinking person. Just saying. Can we stop with the destruction of the language and the isolation and the removal of... I just want it all to stop and get
Me
to
too.
normal again. It just would be nice. Anyway, we talked earlier about how the left seems to be turning on Joe Biden, seems to be thinking maybe we need to put him on a raft and just push him off the coast of Delaware and let him float out a little bit, because he's got the beachfront home and everything. And then especially Maureen Dowd's piece, the opinion piece that popped on Saturday, that really took Joe Biden to task over the lack of recognition of the seventh grandchild. And then Axios yesterday absolutely turning up the jets, saying Joe Biden's not the avuncular, grandfatherly type guy in the White House, especially with the staff, talking about how if you had to have a meeting with him, you would bring a buddy so you wouldn't take all the fire when he got angry and started cursing. So we opened up Larry O'Connor's time machine, and we decided to take a walk through some of Angry Joe's history. Like back in 1987 when Joe was running for president, and he got mad at a guy who asked him about where he went to law school.
I have one real quick question. What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly, I think we all
I think I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom two-thirds of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Now, Julie Gunlock, out of all those claims that Joe Biden made, how many would you say would be true?
I was just thinking that.
Close your eyes and you'll see the number. None of them are true.
Is it a circle shape?
Yes. It begins with a Z and ends with an Eero. None of those claims were true. Not a one. But people are going, oh, you're picking on him. You're picking on him. No, he did this all the time. Even during the last campaign, he was in Iowa. And somebody dared to ask him a question, and it really triggered Joey.
Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time, and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape line, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an RFK check. Number two, no one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I
one.
didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that in MSNBC. You did not hear that at all. What you heard, look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
Well, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, fat, look, here's the deal.
Yeah, that's when he said, look, fat, look. And then denied he called the guy fat. He wanted to do push-ups. He was very triggered because someone dared ask about Hunter not working at a company and getting paid a lot of money for being on the board, never showing up, never visiting Ukraine, all that stuff. But, it just kept...
Look, fat, look, here's the deal.
Yeah, look, fat, look. The Michigan auto worker who was curious about gun rights, because this has been the mission, one of the center missions of the Democrat Party is to get rid of your guns and my guns. And how dare an auto worker confront Joe about that?
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that. It's a viral video like the other ones you're putting out there. They're saying they're lying.
Well, he just clarified it.
Wait. Take your AR-14s and look at it.
Hold on. Hey, let's keep moving here. There's a lot of guys wanted this.
I'm not worried.
Well, Joe talked about that exclusive, hard-to-find AR-14 rifle, which doesn't exist except in his brain. I got to play one more because this one shows the anger. This is cut 8. Biden said to Ed O'Keefe at a campaign event he was really not happy.
Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down.
Yeah. Why? The repetition, the instant snapping, it usually is a sign of someone with dementia who's struggling. In Biden's case, it's been going on for a long time. And the Axios article is pointing it out. And I think a lot of people are starting to catch on that he's been an angry and mean guy for a while. The mush that's happening in his brain is just exacerbating the condition. And we've got more. We've got more to talk about. And coming up just around the corner, it is 5:43 on WMAL.
Would you take President Biden place in that? Do you think he plays as a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son.
Yes, that was the president of the United States calling Mr. Ducey, Peter Ducey of Fox News, a stupid SOB. And he did apologize for it, but that doesn't necessarily excuse the behavior. It is WMAL, O'Connor and Company, Michael Pelka sitting in for Larry, and Julie Gunlock is with me. We've been following up on what appears to be some critical mass developing around the left's portrayal of the president as a problem with his temper, a problem with his recognition or lack thereof of a grandchild, his son's child, a problem maybe with his cognitive skills, although none of them are pointing that out right now. It does appear that there seems to be interest in maybe saying, it's time, Joe, it's time for you to retire. And the Axios article is particularly interesting because it does point out how Joey likes to whisper to make a point, but in private, he's a yeller.
Yeah.
And I think they called him Old Yeller Or at least maybe that's just wishful thinking.
You know, I worked a decade on Capitol Hill, and I've worked in this city for a lot longer than that. And sometimes I get kind of frustrated with these stories. I feel like it's a little bit of this sort of millennial or, sort of crybaby. Oh, he yelled at me. You know, I feel like, obviously if you're president, if you're a U.S. senator, you're under intense stress, right? So there might be some blowups and people need to manage it, right? I'm very Gen X in this way. Like, don't get overly sensitive about this stuff. But these temper tantrums and the clips you just played show a megalomaniac, show someone who is just so smug and treats people so badly. And so this is different than, just the regular, okay, you're going to get yelled at occasionally, deal with it. This is a guy who abuses people. And it's not surprising that he treats his 7th grandchild so dismally, given these clips and this evidence that he's just kind of a jerk to work for.
Yeah, I think I would love for somebody to finally stand up to him and pull the George Costanza line. The jerk store called and they're out of you. But I don't think that. I think that's just wishful thinking in my head. I watched yesterday, and we'll get into this later, Joe Biden arriving in London and then spending time with the king. Which I just get so tired of us recognizing monarchies. It's what we fought the war for. But yeah, we met with the king. And what did we talk about? How we can spend a lot of money to change the weather. It just seems like a waste of time. And then we saw the walking that Joe Biden has to do. When you're head of state, you have to go review the troops for the other side, whomever you're visiting. But did you see the moment with the beef eaters, the guys with the big fuzzy hats?
I was so cringy. And the hanging on to Charles, who's no spring chicken, by the way. Biden reached out and Charles offering his arm to balance him, to steady him. That's bad optics. Very bad optics.
Well, you're right. This is bad optics all around.
Yeah.
But if you want to have fun today, take a moment, find the video of Joe Biden reviewing the beef eaters, with Charles, and Charles trying to pull him away.
Yeah.
Joe kept staring at the big hat, and it's almost like he was turning around to the king going, hey, you seen the hat on this guy?
I want one. I want one of these hats.
Do you have one of these in my size? I swear to you, it looked like he was absolutely enamored with this outfit, and he could not look away. And Charles kept pulling him. Come on, bud. Hey, come on. We got crumpets on the table. And we'll talk about the crumpets later, too, because the media on Air Force One has drifted back to butt-kissing mode. Let's just put it that way. That's where they are. There is so much more to get to today, and we'll play for you the butt-kissing mode from Air Force One just around the corner as well. It is 52 minutes after 5 o'clock. It's sunrise right now on WMAL.
FBI informant file refer to you as the big guy President Biden. Why is that term continuously applied? Thanks, guys.
Why did I ask such a dumb question?
It's 5:59 coming up on O'Connor and Company with Opelka and Gunlock sitting in here. We have Denise Rucker-Krepp talking about the D.C. mayor crime bill. And I have to apologize for what I said about the beef eaters. I'll explain just around the corner on WMAL.